Well, good evening, everyone. Robert Phoenix here, back again. Sunday night AstroLive, underneath the tree of knowledge. It's been a very hot today, and I've been sort of putting the show off just a little bit so it would cool off, or else I would do it inside where there's very nice air conditioning. But I like doing the show out here. Let me just step back and I'll show you a little bit of the back 40 here. So I worked on the yard today, and I think I had grass up. It must have been about 3 feet high over there, and then you can see back here on that fence area. I have a vine that's hanging around, and it basically decided to take over the entirety of the yard, pretty much. So I had to cut all that back, and that was pretty labor intensive today. So throw some grass seed on there and get this thing back up and running. So that's what the old backyard looks like. And then here's the tree, right? Well, that's not really the backyard. So that's the tree that I sit under, or stand under rather. Looks like there was a little tree fort in there at one time. It's kind of cool to think that kids actually had something like tree forts. Isn't that amazing? My God, what a blast from the past that is, huh? The old tree fort. Let's see if I can move this up. Hold on a second, right back. Gotta make a little adjustment here, just to get people to kind of walk in and get a little settled. Give me 1 sec. All right, there we are. I'm back. All right, who's in the house tonight? Who's in the house? I need Dawn. She says I need a dog. Dawn, I left it up to the universe. I said if the universe wants to bring me a dog, I'm open to it. But it's got to be a puppy, and it can't be small. I know a lot of people out there really like the small dogs. I think they're very cute. However, I'd be looking at this from a very functional perspective. Something that would have, let's say, some real canines. But it'd have to be a puppy, and I'm really not uh, going out of my way to find a dog. But if there is one in my future, welcome home. All right, let's see. What do we have here? Who do we have? We got the lovely, intelligent Jonas. Hey, there's Anna. Hi, Anna. Hope you're doing well down there in good old Houston. Up 77. Hello. Kestrel in the house. Frank Bry. What's happening? Here's the cheeky one. I've been thinking about you, Amy. Hope you're doing well. Cindy Burton. I built many tree forts. The tree fort is a lost art form. Although there was a pretty big, when something is about ready to be over, it's when they made tree forts into fucking mansions. When they made tree forts into mansions, like, okay, we're done. Tree fort thing is over. There's a Discovery Channel show or a Travel Channel show about amazing tree forts. I'm like, it's like these guys are pumping out 10K just to have a cool tree fort. I'm like, it's just over. Cindy Burton, what's going on? Did I see Judy? JMP Love. Hey, there's my cuz. What's happening, Sandra? Good to see you. Mary Grether. Maurice sure beats the apartment. Oh boy. What apartment? I don't even remember that apartment now. That's like missing time. Joe Mama in the house. Christy Daniels. Christy, I hope your journey's been a safe one and that you are prospering and healthy where you've landed. There's Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Nice to see you. There's Miranda and Nancy. Hi. Lil's in the house. DJ MC, what's going on, Michael? Double M squared, Megan McIntyre showing up. Christine, the Seeker Vlog. What's going on, Seeker? Jennifer Rubin. There she is. Jan Augenstein. Going to be talking about Aries tonight, Jan. Positively, but also some other stuff, right, that goes along with Aries. Judy Anderson. Hi there, Judy. Saw you again. Let's see, who else do we have? Of course, Joe Mama. Alexis Lay. Hello, Alexis. Marlene McNichols. Hey, Marlene. Nice to see you. Yvonne, what's going on, man? Nice to see you here. Let's see who else. BB, it's been 108 in Tucson. Oh my God. I was 103 here today. We're about 5 degrees cooler than Tucson. I used to like Tucson. I rescue you all the time. Okay. You are on my list. Hello. How about that Wayfair? Of course, Robbie's going to chime in on Wayfair. Big dogs. Rosie and Jasper would hate a dog. They may like a puppy. Miss Jasper, what is he up to? You know, I got to just fix the fencing here. As soon as I fix the fencing, he'll be in. He'll be around. Hi, Marie. Good to see you. All the way from Iowa. What's going on with the cheeky one? Is she having a hard time? Hey, there's Roxana. Hey, what's going on, Roxana? Fellow astrological practitioner. Ani, the wench with the wrench. Hello, Ani. Good to see you. Another fabulous day in our ever-changing world. Grew some veggies. Chilled neighbors faced a bully. Bullies need to be faced. Zachlin finally got a message from YouTube. How about that? Jeff, I got to get back to you. Okay. I promise I'm going to search you out tonight and I'm going to shoot you an email. Jeff, we're going to fast track you and get you in the queue. I'm just trying to catch up with everything. So you're on my list. I promise. Okay. I promise. When I say that, I get there. Renee, nice to see you. There's Leanne. Hi, Leanne. What happened to Cheeky? Something happened with her. To our friend. Oh, shit. You got laid off? Damn. Oh, man, that sucks. That sucks. Amy, man, I'm so bummed. I'm bummed about that. Well, you know, that's the world now. Instability is running through the system. Instability running through the system. Yeah. Well, you're very good at what you do, and I hope there is somebody else out there who may want to employ your services. I don't think you're going to be unemployed for long, not with your background. And you may want to pay attention to the relocation part of tonight's show. Elisha Olivas. What's going on? It's Alicia Olivas. Good to see you. JMP's in the house. We got a full house here tonight. We're about 15 minutes in, and we got 123. Lady Zaga. Oh, hey, Aline. How are you? Good to see you. Hope you're well. Some good old faces. Good ones. Not old that they're old, but old that there's a history here. Familiar faces I haven't seen. Let's see who else. Something good around the corner in the flow state. Okay, we like that. A black lab is one fine. I had one more. I had a black lab, golden retriever, border collie mix. He was the best dog ever. He was epic. His name was Cosmo. I got stories about that dog. Buffering. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I'm going right into the old. I'm jacked in tonight. I'm jacked in. I'm not doing any kind of Wi-Fi tonight. Where's Jasper? Jasper is actually living right now in the air-conditioned portion of the compound here, while I'm out in basically what would be called 90-degree weather. What is camp disclosure, Rob? Let's see. Relocation. Timely. For many, good, good, good. Yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into relocation tonight. So let's, why don't we get this thing rolling here? Looks like we've capped out at about 129. Let's see, just to let you know. Oh yeah, okay. So the new website should be launching this weekend, or this week rather. On the other side of Wolf Husky. Man, I'm into the wolves, man. I am into the wolves. I lived with a couple wolves one time. That to me. I got to say, I have to say, living with those wolves, albeit briefly, was one of the highlights of my life. I have to say. Or I may as well tell the story now that I'm on it. Hey, there's Melody. Hi, Melody. Good to see you. Good to see. Nice to see you. Do you have a birthday recently, Melody? Question mark. Question mark. You might have. I think you did. Maybe it's not so recently. I think I might have missed it. Anyway, happy solar return. So here's the wolf story. So I was 27, and I was living on the coast in California. I think I might have been. I think I might have been 26. Yes, I might have been 26. 26, 20, right around there. And oh boy, the conditions of that time. So, all right, I'll go back. I was living in a grandmother apartment. Okay, I was living in a grandmother apartment, and the grandmother was right next to this house. It was like kind of attached to this house. The people that owned the house they had the grandmother apartment. It was just a little one bedroom, small kitchen, small living room, little tiny bath, but it was cool. It was all right, and I was living there with my girlfriend at the time, and we were breaking up. It was clear we were breaking up, and we were moving in different directions. So the woman, she was a nice lady. This woman who owned this house, and she was a realtor, and her husband was nice, nice people. Anyway, her daughter moved back home because she was going through this divorce in Hawaii. So she moves back home, and let's just say there was a little snap, crackle, and pop between me and the daughter. So we wound up having, as we might call it, a liaison, a fling. And then the mother found out about it. Oh my God. She was so pissed off. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who told her. I guess the daughter told her. The daughter was a Sag. So anyway, that was it for me in that apartment. The mother-in-law home was over. And her mother was like crying. Like I was talking to her and she was crying. How could I? That's like she's a grown woman, number one. Number two, she's no longer married because she had an affair with some dude to get out of that marriage, and she left the affair and she left the island, and then here she was, right? Here she was, and there I was, and there we were, and we had a really great time. We had a great time, and then the guy that she left her husband for wound up going to the mainland, as they say, and you know, swept her off her feet. A couple of Sagittarians. I hope they're well. That was excessive. The mother was crying. It was weird. I was like, "Why are you crying?" She was upset. She was really upset. So I had to find a new place to live. Anyway, I was working on the coast. You guys might be familiar with that Half Moon Bay area, right? She was upset. She was upset. Half Moon Bay area. So I wound up finding this ad in this paper. I guess it was maybe the Half Moon Bay, whatever. And I found this place in a tiny town called San Gregorio. Now, San Gregorio is a little town that's between La Honda and the Pacific Ocean. So there's really nothing there in San Gregorio. So I moved into this horse ranch. So I pull in the first day I'm there to go check this place out. So it's a horse ranch. I pull into the parking spot, and these two wolves come up to my car. I'm like, holy shit, those are wolves. I know what a wolf looks like. And there were these two wolves. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, I'll just go with this. So I get out of the car and I started hanging out, petting these wolves, and I talked to the woman who owned the place, and she said, yeah, I got a room. So it worked out, at least initially, it worked out kind of okay. I had my dog, and I move into this place. It's the oldest house in San Mateo County. It has no foundation, none. And so she is this woman who is she was a really, really well known, super well known um, equestrian teacher. So young women from all over the country would go and stay there and live there and work there and learn from her. So in this one house that I was in, there was me, that woman, and then these two other gals. And it was kind of old and kind of primitive. And then uh, she had these two wolves and a Weimaraner, and I had my dog. So one of the wolves was a purebred timber, no purebred Arctic wolf. The other was 3/4 timber. And I totally got into these wolves. I used to play with them. I used to wrestle with them. I mean, it was a cool thing, me and the wolves. Until one day I did not have the pilot light on. So I used to be a runner back then. So I started running. I was a jogger. So I started running out of the horse ranch with my dog. And all of a sudden the wolves decided that they wanted to run with us. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Now it's me and my dog and the two wolves, and I'm running with wolves. Clarissa Piccola Estes, she ran with the wolves. Now I'm running with the wolves. There I go. So I'm running with these wolves. And then there was this truck going up the hill to go to the horse ranch, and there's a dog in the back. And the dog jumped out and joined our pack. So now it's me, my dog, the two wolves, and this other dog. And I'm like, okay, this is taking on epic proportions. Like, should I just like rip all my clothes off with these wolves and just, kind of really get into this thing? But then the two wolves saw this cow out in the pasture, and man, they went right underneath the fence and they started making a beeline for this fucking cow. Anyway, I called them back. They came back. I don't know how I did it. The woman came down the hill. She was super pissed off at me, and then that was it. I was out of the wolf house. But they came and visited me in my dream, and it was a good experience. And the dream was very touching. Anyway, there you go. The wolf story. All right, dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God of the great central Sun, within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best information, the highest and best truth and wisdom come through this channel at this time. And we ask and pray for strength, clarity, purity, flexibility, compassion, empathy, courage, faith, humor, wisdom, discernment, and endurance. If there is any karmic residue that we have or share amongst one another, may be clarified, purified, cleansed, and removed from this stream and one another, so that we may return to our experience as sovereign entities. And bang, let's go. Let's get into it. All right. So a lot of people are talking about Wayfair. This broke on Friday night, and we'll get into some astrology around this for sure. Okay, definitely. This broke on Friday night. Okay, so we have that was when I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the moon is probably in Pisces on Friday. I saw the first I saw the first hits of that stuff on Friday day, if I'm not mistaken, just right after the show that I did with the hat guy, and it started to just blow up like incredibly quickly. If you don't know um, what's going on, I actually have a visual that I can share with you here that gives you kind of an insight, albeit a kind of a Reader's Digest version of what we're talking about here. So here we go. Okay, so these are these big storage sheds that are a hell of a lot of money. I don't know about you, but I've never paid upwards of $14,000 for the old storage shed there. But apparently, I think that these are very, very special. Now, what we have here are the names of the storage sheds. I mean, look at these things. They're just closets. Now, these names apparently are all connected to kids. Like these are the names of missing kids: Naria, Yaritza, Alvia, Samaya. That's the names are odd, right? They all sound rather either biblical or they sound like they've been kids that have been imported from other places and trafficked, like refugee kids. These are refugee kid sounding names, aren't they? So we're going to go down here a little bit. And here's one example. So we have Yaritza Castro, and she's been missing since June 10th, 2020. And there is the Yaritza storage cabinet by WFX Utility. And then we have the Samia Mumin. This is the Samia 5. And Samia has been missing from Columbus, Ohio, where, of course, they took down the Columbus statue. Okay. So here we go. This is the rabbit hole right now. You should go onto Wayfair's Twitter page, or just do hashtag Wayfair. You'll go down the route. You better bring your high beams. Oh, I see Jasper from here. So here is the formula. So what you do is you go to Yandex, which is a Russian search engine, and then you put in the SKU codes, right? And then guess what pops up? That's what pops up. So Yandex is a very interesting search engine. You can find some interesting stuff, but you go there and you're on like a double watch list. And there's a lot of information scraping. So this is quite interesting. You just put in the SKU code on Yandex. So Wayfair simply removed the products. So this is kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. Why don't we just pop this link here, and let's see if this website has come up with any more information. Doesn't seem like it. Wayfair and Amazon. Okay, all right, let's get into this now. Here we go. So Wayfair and Amazon child trafficking scandal. Netizens accuse Amazon of selling kids. So now it's going to Amazon. After Wayfair netizens are accusing Amazon of trafficking children with their highly priced and not so justified price tags, the e-commerce giants come under fire for selling kids in the name of excessively priced household items, such as the pillow. Wasn't there like a $9,000 pillow? Now, apparently, guess what? Amazon trafficking conspiracy, true or not? So here's the Dubay. These astrological curtains. Here's the astrology tie-in, $10,000. So this is the Dubay personalized. And then here we have the Cancer zodiac constellation, right? $99.99. And now we have 9,999. So Amazon is selling area rugs for $21,000, pillows for $10,000. So it's the same formula over on Amazon, apparently. Here's your new level right here. What do we have here? It's the same thing. I can only compare it to how I felt at Woodstock. When my favorite band of all time started playing, when my head touched the downright 434 thread, oh, this is somebody talking about how great the pillow is. I first used this pillow on my private jet. Oh. Let's see, what do we have here? But I remember the distinct feeling that I had the Midas touch. All I wanted to do was touch everything around me and turn them to gold, which I promptly did. I've been chasing that high ever since. Thank you, downright 434, thread count 29, or the Eliasa silk down pill. What the hell is this? This is just bizarre shit. Where do I start? I first used this pillow on my private jet flight from New York to New Jersey. Great way to avoid the traffic. I don't know why more people don't do the same thing. Normally, okay, there we go. This is real. Do not look away. The hard truth. People have to see it. We got child trafficking. Oh, this is the Gia key. This is the one that's really trippy. So this is the Gia key, large office boss desk, simple modern computer table with storage cabinet, multi-purpose, sturdy, spacious writing computer desk. So here is the Gia key. It's on Amazon, and guess what? Gia key, a missing kid. Coincidence? Question mark. Says the story is still developing. Stay tuned with TCD. So you guys are into this. Check out the Courier Daily. Looks like they've got some insight into what's going on with this absolutely bizarre and quite possibly paradigm shattering information. So this guy's the CEO, resigns or steps down. So this guy, Wayfair human traffic. Okay, this guy, Niraj Shah, has resigned from the job. Is it real or just a hoax? On July 10th, the user posted a controversial article in controversy subreddit on the Reddit platform. The user, Princess Peach 1987, posted finding a screenshot of Wayfair's highly priced cabinets. We looked at that already. There it is. So Niraj Shah is the founder. Now, somebody by the name of, is it Andrea or Angela Jung is also in the Wayfair mix as well. The account has been deleted now. Check out the screenshot below. CEO of Wayfair has resigned. Okay, so there's probably some smoke there. The tweet led people to believe that Wayfair CEO has resigned. We can safely assume that the CEO has not resigned as of yet, because earlier yesterday, a spokeswoman from Wayfair, Frechette, denied the allegations. So this is something you want to be able to track. And whether or not this guy's stepped down, we'll find out. Now, the weird thing about this Wayfair stuff is that they had a whole product line. I was going to talk about this tomorrow. They had a whole product line of stuff called the Maxwell, the Epstein, the Wexner. Okay. So they had a whole product line of this stuff. Coincidence? They only had one Wexner product, by the way. It was a light. It was discontinued. And one Maxwell, a lot of Maxwell and a lot of Epstein. So there you go for all of you who are trying to keep score at home, right, with what's happening out there. So let's just talk about the Maxwell thing for a minute, and then we're going to get into some astrology. So one of the things that's happening with Maxwell is that she has been brought into New York, in the Southern District of New York, by Cyrus Vance. And Cyrus Vance is somebody who is, how should we say, Democrat friendly. Okay, he's Democrat friendly. He's a quote unquote Democrat progressive and not necessarily a supporter of Trump. And I'm being quite understated when I say that. So this is the guy now that brought Ghislaine Maxwell in. Okay. This was not Alan Dershowitz. This was not somebody from the feds. This was Cyrus Vance from the Southern District of New York. If I am to read the tea leaves properly here, he will not necessarily be favorable nor positive towards Trump with this case. Now, I've also heard, though I cannot confirm this, that Ghislaine Maxwell might actually be in Guantanamo. But, it's one of those things where it's just in the realm of speculation. And I do enough trying to understand symbols and code on my own terms. And sometimes some of the Q stuff is interesting. But, this is a good way to disappear somebody too. So what we have to hope for here, and this gets back into the Wayfair stuff, is that this Maxwell Epstein story, and it's a deep story, and it's a very ugly story. It's incredibly ugly. I'm going to play you a video tomorrow. I'm not going to do it tonight. I'm going to play you a video tomorrow's show, which is a chilling story about a young woman who had been abducted by the Maxwell crew. So this is really important. This whole thing is so essential to where we are now and then what's coming at us, okay? Because what's coming at us will not be pretty. What we're going to be dealing with in many cases, many states, is the advance of the contact tracers. And the contact tracers are not going to be easy to deal with because it is a tiered system. So there's somebody on top and somebody on top and somebody on top and somebody on top, and then the contact tracers on the bottom. And remember, a contact tracer is going to get a pretty decent base salary. Like, these people will receive anywhere between $50,000 to $60,000, and there will be bonus incentives. I guarantee you that if they bring people in, they'll make more money, right? And then the people above them will make more money. This is how it works, right? This is how the whole thing works. So we're going to have to be dealing with that. We're going to have to be dealing with it the next 4 to 6 weeks as they continue to conflate the statistics, sometimes counting people dead twice, sometimes counting a person who might be probable as being actual, not even probable to actual, might be probable. So we've seen the numbers get pumped, and they're doing it for a reason. Now, again, I want to say I think there's a there with whatever this thing is. There is a there, but it's not the there that they're talking about. It's not the there that they're saying. It's not what they're marketing so they can get their vaccine into distribution and to get the contact tracers on the streets. And once we get to that point, we're headed into very, very slippery slope, very dangerous territory. And the United States, for all intents and purposes, is over as we know it. And you better start to think about that. It has not been the same since really 3/11. And when states started to quarantine people and Trump said, I'm going to let the states handle this, he's let the states handle everything at this point. So what use is the federal government right now? I'm not sure, except for collecting taxes. Oh, by the way, did you see the thing with Oklahoma? Oh, shit. Right. So the same Friday, which is interesting, the same Friday that this Wayfair stuff hits, Oklahoma gets basically split in two by the Supreme Court, who is now a rogue court, by the way. But we're actually seeing the disassembling. I mean, that is really a physical disassembling of the United States. And what's interesting is that this falls under the domain and the province of the true node in Gemini, bringing this all the way back to astrology, because Sagittarius deals with whole systems. So if you look at the Sibley chart for the United States, it is Sagittarius rising, right? Sagittarius rising. So when the country theoretically, when they all signed that document, Sag was ascending. Okay, it was ascending. So that meant that this entity known as the United States would be about expansion. It would be about expansion because that's what Sagittarius does. It expands. Now, that expansion would be westward because it would go to the west side of the chart, and that's where Gemini is in the US chart. So, what we're seeing now is this movement away from that original moment, right? That original time when, the founding fathers signed it all up and locked it in. And I do work with the Sibley chart. So now we're moving away from that, and especially because of the South Node, which is moving through the U.S. natal charts, and the True Node is moving through the seventh house and the sixth house of the U.S. chart. So this is kind of a big deal. This whole Gemini effect is a big deal because we're moving away from a whole system or macro system into a micro system. And we've seen already the disassembling of states as it has happened during number one, the Corona response, and number two, the George Floyd response. Now we're seeing Oklahoma being split up. And I have no idea how that's going to impact how this thing unfolds with electoral votes. Now, the weird thing about the Oklahoma thing is that the whole thing is bizarre. Oklahoma, basically what happened is there was a guy who, talk about kids, same day as this Wayfair. So this guy, I believe, was, if I'm not mistaken, Native American. And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize, but that's what I read. And he was tried and convicted by the state of Oklahoma for essentially sexually assaulting not just a minor, but a very, very tiny minor, small minor. And what they did is they went back and they looked at the treaty that Oklahoma had with those nations. And apparently, Oklahoma did something to not honor the treaty. So, therefore, that guy could not be tried and adjudicated and sentenced by the state of Oklahoma. That his conviction was null and void. Okay. So as a result of that, Oklahoma no longer has the eastern part of the state, and that includes Tulsa. And apparently there's a lot of oil out there. So who does have that part of the state? Well, I think it's the 5 or 6 tribes, the Creek, the Muskogee, and about 4 others. In the federal government. Now, the federal government is now kind of in this position, right? In this position of navigating half of the state of Oklahoma along with those tribes. It's going to be very interesting to watch, and I guarantee you other Indian tribes are paying attention big time, and they've got their lawyers and they're looking around and they're going to see if they can actually find some kind of treaty that's been violated, right? So there we go. That's the Gemini effect in effect. The Gemini effect is in effect. So what I want to do is I want to go back and look at a particular event, which I think is a really, really interesting event. And I'm going to look at it from its astrological perspective. Do I want to do that now? Let me wait, because some of you are going to bail out. I want to talk about relocation because I think it's important. It's an important topic. And you guys, a lot of you are thinking about moving. And let me tell you, relocation is essential. It's essential. And it's even more essential during a time where you've got to be really, really place specific. Not just place specific now astrologically, but also you got to read the big room. When I say the big room, I'm not just talking about the US, I'm talking about the entire world. Although I will tell you, it is very hard to get out of the United States now. Very difficult. They have limited access to passport offices. Europe apparently will not take anybody from the United States in. Very hard to get out of Europe as well. So, we're kind of it's not impossible, but we're in a bit of a cage. And I think it's going to get worse as we move through the next weeks and months. So that means that there's a sense of urgency, especially if you're thinking about going to another country. Okay. If you're thinking about being in this country, there's still some issues. Like I know for a fact that Kansas is doing contact tracing. and that you can get quarantined in Kansas now. Something behind me. What is that? Is that my cord? There's a little thing behind me. What is that? Anyway, so you got to be like Kansas. If you're in Kansas, you got to be cautious. If you leave Kansas and you come back, you're in for 14 days, which really, if you want to get rid of the potential for contact tracing, you got to get rid of your smartphone. Just get rid of your smartphone. Just get yourself an old Nokia, and it won't have the app. They'll still be able to track. Like, for instance, if somebody has a smartphone and they know that they're a friend of yours or a relative or a neighbor, there's a very good chance they'll make that association, even if there's no actual proof, because we know that this is how the game works. But in order to insulate and perhaps even isolate yourself a bit more, getting rid of your smartphone, your Apple or your Android, could be quite helpful because both of them have the tracker. Some of you have an iPhone that maybe you've been able to avoid it. How long you're going to be able to avoid it for, who knows? Get yourself a little cheap Nokia and pay about $8.95 on eBay. Sign up for Cricket Wireless, $35 a month. Pay as you go, unlimited voice. You won't need to text. You can live without text, believe it or not. If you want to text, you can wait till you go home. So there are options there for you. There are definitely options there for you. There are things called maps. And if you're really, really hooked on GPS, you can get a portable GPS unit, put it in your car, but you'll be trackable. Now, your cell phone is still trackable. It doesn't have the app, but it's still trackable. They can pretty much find a needle in a haystack if they wanted to. But it won't be as easy, and they won't be able to make the complex kinds of associations that they need with that app and communicate directly with you and to you through that app. So you may want to think about saying goodbye to your smartphone just to keep it all together. Okay, so let's get into relocation. What is relocation? There is something called astrocartography, which I will show you, and I will give you an example of my own chart because, hey, that's what I do. I'm the guinea pig. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want people to know my chart. I don't really care. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of charts of so-called famous people, right? I'm not even so-called famous, but if you want to find somebody's chart, it's not that hard. And if you want to, you could actually, hey, somebody get off me. Shit. All right, I told you to leave me alone. All right, sorry. There's something crawling my leg. And it wasn't a mosquito. If I feel the crawly thing again, I got to go inside. In fact, maybe what I'll do is, you know what I'm going to do? Because we're in the darkness now, we're in the dark. I'm going to move up. I'm going to move up here. Give me a second. I'm stepping out of the void. I am moving into the light. Into the light. I usually have pretty good bug karma, but I really don't want to test it. There we go. All right. Okay, I'm back. All right, that is obviously. Are you following me here or what, man? Come on. Got a fan. All right, that's not my chart. But that will be a chart that we'll be looking at. So, okay. All right. So I'm going to just do my astro travel. I'll give you the bird's eye view here. Okay. Okay. See, there I am. Okay. All right. Let's do a little screen share. So all you got to do is go to astro.com. If you've entered in your date of birth, time, place, right, they will take and put your chart all the way across the planet. There you go. That's what it looks like. This is what astrocartography looks like. And it's a lot more simple than it looks, to be perfectly honest with you. So what we're looking at here are cardinal lines. This is how astrocartography was created, so that the cardinal lines of your chart can show up. And the cardinal lines are important because that's where the energy is sort of the most intense and the most activating. It's catalytic on the cardinal points. Remember that, okay? So we have these lines that are running north-south, and then we have these other lines which are considered crossing lines, and they're going across the planet, right? And sometimes they converge, like in places over here, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you just get a hermetically sealed kind of example of this. Okay, so, and I'll show you how this works. All right, so this is where I was born. I was born right there, right there. Actually, I was born right there, right there. Okay, so that meant that the sun would be on my midheaven, and all these planets over here wind up being in my 11th house, okay? So when I was a kid, we moved from here to here on the, right here on the East Coast, New Jersey, okay? Right there, New Jersey. Bada bing. All right, so then, and when I was a kid, I have to say that I had a really good, like 4 or 5 years as being between 0 and 4. It was a very fun time. Like sun on the ascendant. Like I was like the golden child, was the only grandkid. Here's sun on the ascendant right there. And then we moved all the way across the country. And that's when I moved right here to California. And at that point, even though it says Uranus on the descendant, I actually, through my relocated chart, and you'll see this here as I go to the North American chart. You'll see that Uranus right here is on my ascendant, okay, in Leo. So I was born with Uranus in Leo. So I grew up on a Uranian line, and that made me, well, just a little bit kind of wild and crazy, to be honest with you. Super rebellious, relocated ascendant in Leo. My natural ascendant, or my natal ascendant, is in Scorpio. So what happens is that your chart essentially moves like a wheel across the planet, or it moves backwards and forwards. So everything was moving from the top of my chart, essentially, to almost the bottom of my chart, because in California, my sun is in the second house. Natally, Uranus is my ninth house. Like I said, it moves like a wheel as you go westward. And then as you go eastward, it moves like a wheel back again. Now, these are just the cardinal points, and there are other planets that are associated with the relocation. This is very important to understand. Very important to understand. And the reason why it's important to understand is because I've had clients who have had people give them readings and they just see a line and they say, oh, that's a great line. Go move there. That is not the only thing that goes into a relocated chart. It's just one energy. There are others that are going on. And you could have something, completely like life-changing and game-changing in a positive way. But if you're not paying attention, you could also have some other stuff that comes up in a relocated chart that can be really debilitating. Like I had a client 2 weeks ago, and great person, wonderful person. And somebody saw that there was Jupiter on the midheaven. Like, oh, great place, great place, great place to be, great place to be. Just go there, everything opens up. Well, then I did a chart relocation for her, and Chiron is right on her fourth house cusp. And she's been sick. And she moved to Austin. She's been sick ever since she's moved to Austin. Hello, it's Chiron. right? You're dealing with chironic energy. In that fourth house, and I can guarantee you that Chiron is in Pisces, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, that's a heavy energy. It's like, whoa, wait a second here. You just can't look at a line and say, oh, good line, good line. No, you've got to go through and relocate the entire chart. And so the relocation takes place essentially by recasting your chart for that area. So you have to take certain things into account. It's really important, very important. And you can catch the updraft of a certain location, right? Like you can catch the updraft of being on Sun on the ascendant. So when I go back to the East Coast, and I've made a number of visits to Philadelphia and Virginia Beach, and those have been really powerful and positive times. Super powerful, super positive, really good. I mean, I do live events. I speak. People they like me. They pay for my services, which is not that they don't do that here, but it's just different. Like if you can find your sun line, it's really, really desirable to live on your sun line. Now, there's also some other stuff in my chart in that area, which is okay, but the sun line dominates. And I'd rather live with my sun on the ascendant and deal with everything else, if that's possible. If it's possible. And, it hasn't been. What's also quite interesting, we're going to talk a little about Mars tonight. So when I was a little kid, I remember my parents bought me a knight and armor set, right? Like I had like a little knight helmet, a little plastic sword, a little shield, a little piece of plastic that went around my chest. And I was outside and I was playing around, and there was this kid that lived in the same sort of, I don't know, neighborhood, maybe the same block, whatever. And he was there with his big brothers and stuff. And I don't even think I had a helmet on or anything. I think maybe I just had the knife, plastic knife. Anyway, they urged their little brother, who was my age, to get into a sword fight with me. And he had a stick, and I just had a little stupid plastic sword, right? And the kid hit me in the face. I think he hit me in the eye or something. I was only a little 4-year-old kid. It kind of freaked me out. I'll never forget that, by the way. So there's your Mars on the midheaven right there. It's like I got an introduction to Mars at a very early age, super early age. But this is a pretty decent line for me. And like I said, I've experienced some really good things here. So when I moved to California, I was always in trouble. I was always disturbing the kids in class. I was always the kid who had a lot of potential, blah, 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 blah. Also very creative, always ahead of my time. I'm just telling you, I'm not bragging. I was always into bands or movies that people didn't know about, or books that people didn't know about. That was Uranus on my ascendant. I was into the new. And and I had crazy shit happen to me here along this line. And that's where I grew up. So I got used to that. And then I moved here, right, to this part of the country. And my lines are very, very different. I don't have Uranus now dominating my ascendant. It's no longer Leo. And by the way, I used to have a long hair in California, quite a bit. Some of you might have seen pictures of me with long. I had long hair in California. I don't have long hair anymore. Now I'm a Virgo ascendant, dealing with Sun in the first house, which is good, but not quite on the ascendant. But it went from my second house in California to my first house here. So I took myself, like my health, more personally. It's more personal, especially with Virgo there. Pluto, first house, right? So I've got a Pluto first house here in the Texas area, Sun there. So it's been an interesting time. When I lived in California, Jupiter and Saturn were in my fifth. Saturn was close to ingress in my sixth. But with Jupiter in my fifth in Sagittarius, let's just say I had a lot of fun. I probably had too much fun. Anyway, when I moved to Texas, Jupiter left my fifth house, and I was left with Saturn just solely in my fifth house. And deeper, not as close to the ingress of the sixth. So Jupiter moved to my fourth, and now I've got a nice big backyard. See how that works out? Anyway, Um, I just didn't have a lot of fun when I first moved to Texas. I was like, this shit's not fun. I'm just not. I'm not into this place. I was just really, really not into this place. And in California, I have, let's just say, a pretty Jupiterian love life in the fifth house. I'll just leave it at that. In Texas, I had Saturn in the fifth house, and whatever I thought was happening in California was not happening in Texas. Let me tell you, not happening in Texas. So the thing that did make a lot of sense for me and really helped me kind of establish myself as I wound up coaching baseball for 5 years here in Texas with Saturn in my fifth house in Capricorn. And really, the way I got there was just being kind of disgusted by how managers managed kids, and particularly my kid, but kids in general. I could see where I thought I'd be able to do a much better job, and ultimately I was right. And I made good use of that transit or that relocated Saturn. But it's taken me a while, right? This is the nature of Saturn. And by the way, unless you're dealing with something like the sun on the ascendant or Mars on the midheaven or Mars on the ascendant, sometimes the effects of a relocation may not be as evident. And the thing is with the relocation is that you have to wait it out a little bit, right? Because if you move when you're in your 50s, which technically speaking, I did, when you move when you're in your 50s, you have a whole history of who you were, how you developed, all the sort of the neural pathways, your habituation, all the things, cellular memory that are all part of. Is that behind me? Is that I got a waspy thing back there. Cellular memory, all those things are part of that time that you spend in that area. Relationships, conditioning, all those things. So when you relocate, they will change, but it will take time. The change will take time. Sometimes it will be dramatic and you'll feel something really powerful, especially when you're dealing with a sun line or Mars line. Sometimes Venus lines can be really, really good. If they're on the ascendant, or if you have Venus on the fourth house, right, on the IC, it can be great. You can have a really good and easy and comfortable kind of home life. But it takes time. And one of the things that people, I think, get frustrated with is the changes that do or don't take place. Now, I knew for a fact that it was going to take time for me in this place. And in order for me to make that transition, I had to go from being kind of this Leo ascendant person, kind of eccentric and, really out there, life of the party, to being Virgo rising guy. Okay. And for me, it was sort of like, okay, now I've got to go live with my true node now, because my true node got relocated as well to my first house. So it was really a nodal shift. And also there was a real Chiron shift for me too, because I lived with Uranus all my life. I was a very Uranian character. I was not a Saturnian character at all. But moving here, Saturn became more predominant. Why is that? Because when Saturn in my fifth house, right, it was now trining my relocated ascendant. So it became easier for me to be Saturnian, and that Uranian part of myself got buried now, and that's in the 12th house. So I still have the Uranian kind of influence, but it's coming from a much deeper place, or a place that's kind of not on the surface as much. You see how this stuff works, but it takes time. I had to like adapt to a very different kind of ascendant. And I didn't know as much when I was a kid, right? Because you were a kid and you move from one place to another, and it's Leo on the ascendant and Uranus is there. It's just like, okay, let's have fun and fuck shit up. But this is very, very different. So I do believe, see, people say that you cannot um, leave your troubles behind, or you always take your troubles with you. I don't agree with that. I really don't agree with that. I do believe that when you move to a certain place or a new place, that there are opportunities to re-examine who you are with different influences, particularly the influence that you may be leaving behind. Now, for location to really take root, it helps if you're moving west or east. Now, that's not to say that if you move north south, that relocation will enter into the fray. It will, but it won't be potentially as dramatic because a lot of those same lines are going to be running through the same area. Now, you got to take that into account. So when you move, the east west moves tend to be more dramatic. Also, a move under 500 miles rarely does it make a deep impact with relocation, with the exception of a planet moving closer to one of the cardinal points. And if that's the case within a 500-mile move, then you should most definitely look at relocation as an option. Okay, that's important to understand. Generally speaking, we're talking moves of more than 500 miles. Now, there's another piece to relocation that people who are engaged in this don't often think about, and that is the astrology of the locale. So, what do I mean by that? The state of Texas is a Capricorn state, and it has, guess what, a Capricorn moon. And California happens to be a Virgo state. So I was really at home in California. Like, hey, I'm a Virgo. This is a Virgo state. Yeehaw, let's rock and roll, right? That's not the case with Texas, much more Capricornian. Now I have Saturn in Capricorn. So eventually I would kind of, now, to be honest with you, I think I'm more Texan than a lot of Texans. I have to say, I'm actually quite disappointed in most Texans because you would think that Texans would be independent minded and that they would say, fuck you, I'm not going to wear a mask. That's really not the case. That doesn't mean that they're not here, but they're not here in abundance. They're not here in abundance. There's a lot of people here that follow orders. And you would think that that's probably true, right? Because it's also a very conservative place. So, following the government and following the government's orders and all that stuff, I think that's part of it, I think that's part. They want to be good citizens. You would think they'd be a little more wild, right? A little more independent. Yeah, I tend to be a little bit more Texan in my own way. So I had an interesting moment. I went to so I've gone to the Tea Party a couple times here in town, and especially when we're doing the fluoride stuff. And I was, they were very, very helpful with us. And the guy who runs the Tea Party, he is not really. I don't think he was really into the fluoride thing, and I know that he's definitely on the pro-vax side. That I know. But he was open. He says, look, here, you have this group, you have these resources, go ahead and use them. So, we went to all these meetings. I hadn't been since we lost the election. And I went last week because I saw it was on the agenda. It was quite interesting. But it was also very illuminating, by the way, because they were talking about all the crisis that we're going through, which is the corona stuff, the BLM stuff, the contact tracers, the mask, Greg Abbott, all these things. They were talking about them. And then they had this guy up there from, was it the Texas Freedom Party or something like that? And it's a group of people who are, really constitutionalists. They really follow the Texas Constitution, or try to, or they know about it. And they try to work, fairly conservatively with the government here. Means they go to Austin, they sit in on the legislature, they provide witness, all this stuff, right? They do all these things, but it's all very, how should we say this? I don't want to use a word for it, but systematic, right? It's systematic and it's within a structure. So this guy is a very nice guy, super nice guy. You could tell very earnest. He was a Texan, right? In that kind of way. Like there are varieties of Texans. He was that kind of earnest Texan, God, country, all that stuff. So he's talking about how they're going to audit all these various groups or these commissions inside the state, which is a good thing to do, apparently, if you want to figure out where your money's going or not going. And so we're gonna get into this, and wherever they're overspending, we're gonna hit them, right? We're gonna hit them. And we're gonna cut back their budgets. And I'm listening. I'm like, do these people really know what's going on here? It's like, do they know really what we're up against? Do they know that we're on a timeline now that is really like mission critical? I couldn't help myself. I had a Patrick Henry moment. So I said, why don't you just stop paying your property taxes? Just stop paying your property taxes. That'll get their attention. And we only need 20% of the population to do that. Because in Texas, right, you don't file for a state tax, but they have really very high property taxes. I said, you just don't pay them 20%. That'll get their attention. And it was like, people looked at me. And then somebody who is kind of in the know and involved in politics, who I'm starting to have a bit of a relationship with here in terms of exchanging information. They said, yeah, all they have to do is just take that penalty, that 1 month penalty. That's all they have to do. And he's right. You can get by with not paying your property taxes. You get a 1 month penalty. You get 1 month. But if you get, 20, 25% of the population just saying, yeah, we're not paying. Not paying. And you take that penalty for 1 month, that'll get their attention, because that's what's getting attention now. It's not due process. Due process is out the door. Okay, so these are good people. They like to play by the rules, play by the book. And I'm like, yeah, I think that time is over. You better start thinking about how to sort of, play between the lines a little bit here. So that's Texas for you. Saturn. So you got to know, and there's a website. Well, websites to tell you what signs. I'll show you the website. Here you go. Looks like my power came undone. All right. That means I'm on a clock now for the show, which is good, I think. Okay, so I'll show you this website. So here we go. I tend to refer to this one. It's a pretty good one. It's by Mark Dodich. This has been up for quite a long time, actually. And it's a PDF, which means that you can download it. And I think you should probably familiarize yourself with the states and their various astrological affiliations. So there we go. There's Astro Mark, lives in Portland, Mark Dodich. So you just go through here, right? You can just see Cancer Sun, Aquarius Moon, Rise sign Libra Virgo. Yeah, I don't use Virgo. I use Sag. But anyway, they've got all these different states, right? California, Sun in Virgo, Moon in Scorpio. You see why I like that place? Let's go all the way down to Texas. Capricorn Sun, Capricorn Moon. Here in, well, not here in Austin, but Capricorn Sun, Libra Moon. And is it interesting that Austin happens to be a very musical city with the sun in Libra? Houston, Gemini Sun with the moon in Cancer. San Antonio, Pisces Sun, Moon in Aries. And then here we have El Paso with the big square right there. Sun in Taurus, Moon in Aquarius. Dallas is pretty like far out, right? Sun in Aquarius, Moon in Sag. That makes total sense in a lot of ways. Yeah. Dallas Cowboys were the first team that used computerized statistics to rate players. Gil Brandt, there's your Aquarius. So here you go. There's your list of, and it's also got countries as well, right? And by the way, you can relocate for anything. Here's some Earth lines. Right. So you can work with him, but really, you could also work with me. But this is good. This is good. It's a nice little PDF. Want to make that event? You can work with him. Who cares? But I'm really good at the relocation stuff. Just giving you a heads up. Now it gets even more granular. So the granular part is now I live in a small town. And, what is the chart for the town? And you can line all this up, right? It can all come together. And I'm a firm believer in relocation. The first time, and I'll show you this, you get a glimpse of this. The first time that I ever, make sure I have the right thing up here. Give me 1 second. The first time that I ever really experienced relocation without understanding the nature of it in its intensity with the astrological implications came when I went to London. And I've talked about this story before, so I will share the story again. So when I visited London briefly, I've been back a couple times. It's always been intense, but the intensity got better. So when I went to London, the very first time, I was on my way to Findhorn, and I had this just bizarre day, absolutely bizarre day. And you see my Pluto line runs. My true node is on the midheaven, right there in London, or just outside. And here's my Pluto line, pretty much, almost right through it, just to the left, right, just to the western side. So my one day in London during my first stay there, I somehow wound up in a eulogy for this person that I didn't know at this church. It was with a group of people. So my first day in London was all about death. It was about death. I went to somebody's memorial, and I didn't even know this person. It was, and I don't want to get into the weeds around this thing. Just we wound up there because I thought it was I thought they were having some kind of a seminar on death and transformation. It was November, for crying out loud. It was Scorpio. I'm thinking, okay, it's Scorpio, death and transformation. Hey, that's a good thing for us. Let's go check it out. We have some time to kill, pun not intended. And that's what happened. Now, I didn't recognize this until 5 years later when I was in Seattle, and I got an astrocartography reading from Jim Lewis. And we looked at that. I'm like, holy shit, of course. There's that Pluto line running right through London. So if you think astrology is bogus or bullshit, when you think this relocation stuff is bogus or bullshit, I tell you right now, it's not. I've experienced it in many, many different locations. Okay. All right. I've got to go to black now. I've got to step into the void because I want to catch up on your comments. So pardon me while I step out of time space. I'm back now. The mysteries of the universe were revealed to me. Okay, what do we have here? My hometown is on Pluto line. Where is it though? Is it on your ascendant, midheaven? I see your descendant, right? So relocation is important. It's very important to understand. I am going to be putting together a relocation webinar. It's going to be happening hopefully in 3 weeks. My new website's launching this week, which is why I'm a little hesitant, but I think 3 weeks is the outlier. So that means that next week I will remind you, right? And I will remind you again. Now, if you have subscribed to this channel and my other channels, and you've subscribed to the $10 or the $20 level, you will be able to attend this webinar. Okay. You'll be able to attend it. That was part of the deal that I made. Even if you've already attended one, you're at the $10 level, I'm going to let you slide because it's been a while since I've done these webinars. So basically, you're going to get 2, and the other folks, you'll get 2 too. But just a small handful, I think, attended the last one. For those of you who have not uh, signed up or subscribed, right? You could, and there's a link here in the show page. And when you do, you'll be able to attend the webinar for free. The $10 membership, that's a month, right? You get to attend 1 free webinar, and then 20, you get 2. Okay. And if you don't want to subscribe, you just want to sign up for the webinar, you can do that. You can do that. Okay. You better jump on it now, because this stuff is going to get grandfathered, because when I launch my website, there's going to be a new thing. Okay. There's going to be a new thing, which means that there's going to be kind of a very private sort of 11th house deal. And I'll have details when that launches. Okay. Also, this is going to be your last chance for the King Corona readings. And I put that link inside of the show page. So if you want to take advantage of that, that's an hour reading for $133. You should do it now. When the new website comes along, it will go away. I will have an option for people who are, let's just say, economically challenged. All right. You'll still be able to get something, but it won't be as like kind of, I wouldn't say blown out, but you won't get a full hour. You'll get something. Okay. It'll be easier for you. So I never want to turn anybody away. Okay. Never want to turn anybody away. All right. So that is the housekeeping. Okay. That's the housekeeping. There you go. All right. Do I have a special for a couples reading? No, I don't. However, when my website relaunches, you'll be able to get a couples reading. Plus, you will be able to get 2 of the couples charts, the Synastry chart and the midpoint composite chart. They're a part of the deal, and they're let's just say they're discounted. Okay, so you get it, part of the deal. So there you go. No special, but I will have if you are challenged financially, there'll be an option. So it's not like you won't be able to work with me or vice versa. It's just that the larger option, the hour-long reading, that's going away when the new site launches. It should be this week. Okay. All right. Business out of the way. I want to go back and I want to look at a very specific event in time. And this was the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight. Now, numerologically, the numerology around this fight is very interesting. It was on 2/20/2020. Okay. So we had 22 and then 22. 22/22. We had 2 4s. That number is 8. That's a number that shows up, by the way, in the George Floyd symbolism. By the way, people are starting to piggyback on a lot of my twin stuff. I've seen that now. I've seen that. It's okay. It's okay. It's a free world, so they say. Anyway, the number 8 shows up with George Floyd a lot, right? A lot. Like he was number 88 in high school, theoretically. That was his number. And then it was 8 minutes and 43 seconds of, knee to the back or whatever that was. So what's interesting about this event, right, is that it happens on 2/20/2020. It is not that long before 3/11/2020, which is really the demarcation. And there's something about that Tyson Fury event that represents kind of a piece of finality with the whole thing. And I'm going to show you some symbolism in this thing. It's going to kind of blow your mind, all right? And there's a little bit of astrology going on here too, so check this out. Okay. Now remember, 2020, Tyson Fury is a Leo. He's a Leo. And what is a Leo? Leo's a king, right? It's a king. Give me 1 second. Good, everybody Fury. Oh, come on. Now it's not going to open for me. Okay, let's try this again. Here we go. This is funny. Okay. All right. So there's more than there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to skin the old cat now, isn't there? Okay, here we go. Hold on. Okay, this is the image I wanted to show you. So he's known as what? The Gypsy King. Okay. He's known as the Gypsy King. I want you to check this out. So this is him as he's coming into the ring in Las Vegas to fight Tyson Fury. I'm sorry, Deontay Wilder in a rematch. And what do we have here? We have the Corona. See that? The Corona. There he is. Now he enters. Theoretically, he's being pulled along by 4 women, and but he's not really. It's just the thing is kind of this is being pushed. But he's on this throne, and he's coming into Patsy Cline's Crazy. It has got to be one of the best entrances for any fight ever that I've ever seen. I mean, this would have been Hollywood, pure Hollywood. So Fury comes in, and what do we have? We have the crown. We have the Corona. He's a Leo, can you tell? Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to contrast that with Deontay Wilder's entrance. Let's do this here. Hold on. Apologies. What happens when you work in a dark environment? So let's look at Mr. Wilder. So here's his entrance. What the hell's going on here? He's wearing a mask. You see that? So here we have the crown and the corona, and here we have the mask. Now, Deontay Wilder is known for his very creative mask wear. You're here, right? He's known for these masks. Now, what's really interesting is that he said after the interview that he felt like the mask made him tired and he had a hard time breathing. So how bizarre is this now? We got one guy wearing a crown and sporting the corona effect. And then you have the other guy. Now he's got a crown. Theoretically, he is the champion. But this is a mask, and it's masking him. And he even said that physically it made it difficult for him to actually fight. He was tired the whole time. And here's a whole collection of his masks, right? He's known for his masks. Look at this shit. The evolution of his masks. And guess what we're all doing? We're all wearing masks. It looks like some eyes wide shut shit, doesn't it, right there? Look at that. See? He's the masked man. So that in and of itself is interesting. Now, the other thing that I think is interesting is the polarity piece, because you have Deontay Wilder, happens to be so-called black, and then you have Tyson Fury, who has to be so-called white. Okay, so now we've got the white and the black thing. We got the white and the black thing. We have the crown, the corona. We have the mask. 2020. Duality. 2 represents duality, by the way. There it is. And it's only 18 days away from 311. 18 days away from 311, which of course is 9. Okay, so there's another piece to this. And when I saw this happening, it blew me away. It blew me away when I saw this, when I saw Tyson Fury singing. How do I say this? I had a very odd feeling from this moment. Very, very odd feeling. Right? Yeah, very odd feeling. These people are straight delusional, question mark. I mean, you worship whatever evil and all, but you still have to eat, right? What are they going to do? Grow their own food? Probably not. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Oh, okay. So it's a discussion. You guys can work it out. Okay, so I'm going to play you this moment at the end of the fight. And in retrospect, I want you to really pay attention to this moment and these lyrics and what happens here. It's going to kind of blow you away, I think. Okay, here we go. This is Tyson Fury singing Don McLean's American Pie and doing a very good job of it, by the way. And in a lot of ways, well, I'm going to play the clip, and then I'm going to give you my commentary on this thing. Okay, here we go.
Tyson, describe what it feels to do what you just did. You said it, you called it, and you made it happen.
You know, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I said, those who bring evil against me will not prosper. I said, those who stand in the dark can never come into the light. All praise be to the one and only true God, Jesus Christ. Secondly, I just want to say big shout out to Deontay Wilder. You know, he came here tonight. He manned up. He really did show heart of a champion. I hit him with a clean right hand and dropped him, and he got back up and battled on into round 7. He is a warrior. He will be back. He will be a champion again. But I will say, the king has returned to the top of the throne. Big shout out Top Rank, big shout out Frank Warren, Bob Arum, MTK Global, Marbella, BT, Barbada.co.uk, Wow Hydrate. Second of all, I said I'd sing a song tonight, didn't I? A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. Sing along if you know the words. And I knew if I had my chance, I could make those people dance and maybe they'd be happy for a while. But February made me shiver with every paper I deliver. Bad news on the doorstep. I couldn't take one more step. I can't remember if I cried when I read about his widow bride. Something touched me deep inside the day the music died. All together now. So bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I die. What? This'll be the day that I die. Now did you believe in rock and roll? Can music save your my soul? And can you teach me how to dance real slow? Well, I know that I'm in love with you, 'cause I saw you dancing in the gym. We both kicked off our shoes. Man, I take those rhythm and blues. Oh, I funky buck with a pink carnation and a pickup truck. See, I knew I was out of luck the day the music died. Thank you, Las Vegas!
Have you ever seen anything like Tyson Fury?
Unbelievable. Wilder Fury 2 tonight, 9 East.
So there you go. There you go. I have a lot to say about that clip. And it to me, there is. So let me break this down, okay, in the way that I think is best articulated in the spirit of fairness in the wide aperture. What we saw in that ring, number one, was a guy who said that first and foremost, he wanted to thank his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, right up front. Like, that is a moment that they don't really, they being the media, the people who run the media, who have a very particular kind of POV, they don't really want you to have that, and I don't care where you chime in with religion or God or Jesus, but it's clear that they don't want that. Tim Tebow got kicked out of the NFL because he was having a really big impact on people. His Christianity, his faith seemed to be really touching people in a big way. And the NFL is like, no, we don't want any of this. No way. Let's get him out. So that's number one. And again, you believe in God, not believe in God, whatever, right? But in that moment, you just had somebody become the heavyweight world champion. And then he just gets right up front with it, right? Then he thanks Deontay Wilder. And he says he was a champion, he's a warrior, and he's going to be a champion again. So that's really interesting. That's not like the narrative we're seeing now, is it? The narrative we're seeing now is very different. That was the spirit of a true champ and a true king in a lot of ways, right? He wasn't arrogant. He wasn't prideful. He says he was a champion. He's a warrior to be champ again. Okay. Then he starts singing the song. And he mentions February because that's where the month of the event takes place, is February. And then he's got his wife in the ring, and there they are, and they're actually like, husband and wife, and they got kids. They got a lot of kids. So now you have this whole thing with the family, this undercurrent with the family and the beautiful wife. And then there's the brother that's in the ring with him on his team, and they're on the same team, right? So there's all this really interesting symbolism that suggests a very different kind of world than we're living in now. And in some ways, right, like that moment was sort of a peak. It was a peak when all these things were coming together. And we could look at it in two separate ways. Number one, was it the peak of the West and the end of the West? And that from that moment, it was like on the other side of this thing? Possibly. Or were there certain factions that were engaged at that time that said, we've got to accelerate this program? And I'm not saying that Tyson Fury is a world savior or anything like that, but man, that event was something else. And I used to follow sports more than I do now. And even in the sports world, where you would have these so-called supposed black commentators, right? They were all like massively respecting Tyson Fury. There was no way that they could disrespect him. Like, he was a champion, and he built a bridge. Now, a few minor complaints about him clipping Wilder in the ear or whatever. I mean, that's minor, okay? It's just minor. That's how the fights go. But everybody was in agreement, right? There was some form of unification with the whole fight, the spectacle, and everything. And then 18 days later, we're plunged into a very, very different world. Very different world. And so when you look back on that, like Bye Miss American Pie, I mean, it's almost as if it's an anthem for a particular world, right? A particular dream. This is a guy that obviously from Manchester, England, who dealt with mental illness and bipolar disorder and fought through it. I mean, there's a lot to that story there, it's a story about overcoming odds and facing yourself and vanquishing one's fears. And I want a little money off that fight. I didn't get rich, but I want some money off of it. But it's a very interesting moment in time. And then you have the crown and the mask and the corona. It's just completely archetypal. Fascinating stuff. And when I thought about it, it was like, to me, that's like mundane astrology in action. So I wanted to look at the chart for that night. And if I can pop these charts, it should be okay. Let's see what we got here. Here we go. All right. So the fight went off at 7 p.m. in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I'm going to show you the chart for that night. Oh, that's not it. My bad. That's my next chart I'm doing. Hold on. Here we go. It's an object. It's a window. And there it is. Okay, so this was the chart for that night, right? So what's interesting here is we have Gemini on the midheaven at 22 degrees. Isn't that a trip? Like at 7 p.m., Las Vegas, this is when the fight started. So we have 2020, it was like 2/22, 2020. And then we have the midheaven at 22 degrees, and then the IC at 22 degrees. So we have the 22s coming in again, or the 2s coming in again. And we have Gemini, which represents 2. So we have duality and we have polarity. And what's really interesting is we have Aries in the 7th house, and Aries rules boxing, pugilism, right? Boxing. So Chiron at the start of the fight was really at about 4 Aries. So I pulled up the Sabian symbol for 4 Aries. And it's a really interesting Sabian symbol. Where is it here? So 4 Aries. Now it sounds funny, but when I read Rodier's interpretation, it's actually really interesting. So 4 Aries is 2 lovers strolling on a secluded walk. But the progressive polarization of energies needed for fulfilling one's life function. In order to fully respond to the potentialities released by a sense of identification with the greater whole, the human being should be himself a whole. An interplane of bipolar, which is, I think, Fury has little bipolar tendencies, an interplay of bipolar energies, which is needed to provide a sustained and dynamic resonance to any superior and encompassing life form. This may imply a temporary withdrawal from routine activity, i.e., a secluded process. It is not, however, a closed process. The positive and negative polarities do not meet in a closed circuit. Reconstituting a neutral state of potentiality, they operate in a dynamic, open, unresolved togetherness in contact with the surrounding energies of nature. This symbol characterizes the 4th stage of the first 5-fold sequence of phases, the stage of dynamic and unresolved polarization. It introduces the basic means, one might say, the technique to establish consciousness in the world of duality. Okay, so polarization is the key word to that Chiron in Aries at 4 Aries. So what do 2 fighters do, right? They polarize. They go, one is in one corner of the ring, and the other's in another corner of the ring. That's polarization. And what have we seen now more than anything since that fight? Polarization. We see polarization between black and white and old and young and men and women, Karen versus the non-Karens, mass versus non-mass, Democrats versus Republicans. I mean, the world has been fragmented and shattered into 100 various pieces. So the polarization is here, right here. Venus, of course, in the 7th house is the relationship, right, to violence. This is pugilistic. Venus and Aries, it's confrontation. That's what's happening. Now, quite interesting here, Deontay Wilder is a Libra, so his sun would have been right about there in the 1st house. Tyson Fury's sun in the 11th house, worldwide exposure. The moon here is balsamic, right? There's a bittersweet quality to that balsamic moon. And if I'm not mistaken, that's very close to the United States moon in Aquarius. So this moon is ending, right? It is essentially disintegrating. This is what happens. The balsamic part of this ferments. So the original essence of the thing disintegrates into something else, right? It ferments into something else. So it's an old moon. So very, based on this, but I'm pretty sure that this is very close to the degree of the U.S. moon as well. So the U.S. moon is landing right up here in that moment. It is balsamic. It is a balsamic phase. And where's the U.S. sun? I think it's 15 progressed Pisces. So conjunct transiting Neptune in Pisces. This is a very interesting moon. And then, of course, you have Uranus, which is moved into Taurus 3 degrees here now. A lot of squares going off, really, but I think the big square is probably the Saturn square by degree, right? I'm not really interested in that so much, these squares, as I'm really interested in the midheaven, which is polarization, which is the whole Gemini piece that we're talking about, the mirror of one event in time mirroring another event in time, And then I'm very interested in this Chiron here in the third house, because it gives us a prelude, right? It gives us a prelude to our relationship with Chiron moving forward. And we're dealing with some heavy duty Chiron issues, defunding the police, violence, how do I say this? The dissolution of will in some areas and the resolution of will in others, right? Very much. So this fight and some of the aspects along with it, I think, are fascinating. But to me, the big piece here is that balsamic moon. That by the time the fight is over, and it's over by about 8:30, that moon is probably it's right at the edge. It's going to be like right at 29 Aquarius. It might even be at 0 Pisces at that point. But at the start of the fight, it's here, right? And also, what's interesting is that while the true node is not at apex, it is in the 10th house. And what do we see on display at the end of that fight? We see a lot of Cancerian energy. We see a lot of hearts. We see a connection between the man and the woman, the yin and the yang. We see this connection between the victor and the vanquished, right? All coming together into kind of a very interesting, unified, symmetrical field. And a lot of values, right? There are very, very conservative values. And when I say conservative, I'm not talking about, Fish O'Connell or Lady, what's his name? Lady G, is that his name? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the true node up here in the 10th house is conservative in the sense that it's about values that are close to home. These are values that are emotional and they're loyal. There's a lot of loyalty with Cancer. And you could see that. It was on display during that fight, during the entirety of that fight. Amazing fight. Is that the swan song of the West? Is that the swan song of America? Did we reach the apotheosis? Was that the zenith point in time? And that just a few weeks after that, we would move into a very, very different chapter and different story around the United States. That story remains to be told. Okay, let's get back in here. Let's see. Okay, we've got a lot of conversation going on here. Seattle, bad place. Lived across the Bill Gates. Okay. I'm not focusing. All right. Here we go. Okay. It's funny. There's almost always two shows going on here. There's this one, and there's the one in the chat room, which is, it's an equally good show in its own right. Don't get me wrong. It's interesting to watch. Okay. I got one more thing here, and I'm going to cut out. So I wanted to talk about Aries, and I was watching this great movie, stars in Aries, I believe, Warren Beatty, if I'm not mistaken, Aries. And the movie's called The Parallax View. It's a brilliant movie, and if you can find it, you should watch it. And the director of the movie was Alan J. Pakula, who directed some very good films, including Klutz and Sophie's Choice, which was got a lot of Academy Awards, All the President's Men. So Pakula was a really, really successful director. And he died in a really weird way. He was driving down the road. I think he was 72. He was driving down the road, and there was something in the middle of the road that popped up, and it went through his windshield and struck him in the head, and it killed him. And then I realized that Pakula is an Aries, and it's like the constancy and the themes and the stories around Aries having head injuries is mind blowing. You talk to an Aries, I guarantee you they've had something going on with their head, and some of it's been kind of deleterious. Some of it's recoverable. In many cases, there's always a hard path back. Sometimes it's even fatal. So in Pakula's case, it definitely was fatal. Very strange. Very, very strange. So I'm going to show you his chart here. And this is the Sinastro chart for when he actually passed on, which I happen to have here. 1 second. Okay, so this is Alan Pakula's chart. Now, I don't know his time of birth, but I put a lot of the Pisces at his midheaven because he was a film director. So this is quite interesting. Now, the transit, they had the time of death. It was 10:40 a.m. I looked up the obituary. So what was interesting about Alan Pakula's life is that Eris was here when he was born, right? And it moves slowly. Eris moves slowly, it goes into retrograde. It's a fixed star. On the day that he died, Eris was conjunct Jupiter and his sun in Aries, just off by 1 degree. And Eris does represent violence, by the way, violence and anger, right? And the head. So it's like, wow, there's Eris conjuncting this freaking Jupiter. And what's also interesting is even though Mars was not in Aries, it was in Virgo. Ergo, it was in opposition with Mercury and Venus, right? And what is Mercury? Mercury is travel. So here we have Mars, which is the ruler of Aries. Bang, right there, almost exact. And by the way, almost exactly opposite his Eris, right? Right there, boom. Very interesting. Also, South Node, right here, Sagittarius. Pluto was there on the South Node. All this conglomeration of Sagittarian energy. Here, I believe the moon is in Sag, if I'm not mistaken. Sun, Chiron in Scorpio. So we have Venus, Pluto, and the moon conjunct his South Node. Pluto, of course, being the planet of death and transformation. But to me, the big aspects are the South Node conjunct his own natal Mars, right? Because Mars, the ruler of Aries, Eris in Aries, conjuncting Jupiter and his sun, representing the head, violence. Mars, the ruler of Aries and Virgo, in opposition with Venus, Mercury. So we have 3 aspects to Mars. The South Node here in debilitation. We have Mars here in opposition. And we have Eris, which is in Aries, Mars rulership, right on Jupiter, right on the sun. Bang. And then we have Pluto, again, conjunct the South Node. Very interesting. It's like, wow, did this guy meet an astrological end? He did. The other person that I saw have something similar was the race car driver Ayrton Senna, also in Aries. And in his final race, Senna was driving in, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, San Marino. And he took a turn and something very strange and unusual happened to his Formula One car. And the steering column broke and it went off the steering column, right? And it launched itself through the windshield of his car and it lodged itself right between his visor and his helmet, like found the one space between the visor and the helmet to take him out. And he's an Aries, right? So these are 2 Aries related deaths. I'm not saying that all Aries people die like this, by the way. So if you're an Aries, don't worry, don't stress out. But there does seem to be a very strong relationship to people with Chiron in Aries, Saturn in Aries, Aries rising, and Aries sun, where they have injuries to the head. And sometimes those injuries can be debilitating and fatal. So every sign has its own kind of relationship with its astrological challenges. And when I was a kid, I used to have this like incredible, just really bad stomach pains and stomach cramps and like just terrible. Of course, I'm a Virgo, and so that was, and I've had to deal with that over the course of my life and adjust my diet accordingly. So I'm not going to sit here and go through every sign and say, what you're going to die of. That's not going to happen. But I just thought that it was interesting that when I read that, I'm like, oh, this guy's an Aries. Let me look at what was happening with his death, and sure enough, there it was for all the world to see, especially with astrological eyes. All right, it's 10:23, and I am spent. I had a hard day, a long, hard day, but a good day. It wasn't a difficult day, but I had a long day working on the South 40 back here, and just kind of keeping the old homestead in shape. And I want to thank everybody for being a part of tonight's show, where we get into all things astrological. Oh, by the way, one of the questions that people often ask me about the relocated chart and the natal chart. Well, I have a very good, how should I say this? I've got a good model for that, and how they work together, and I'll explain more of that when I have the webinar. You'll find out how the two are not mutually incompatible. Okay. All right. So thank you everybody for being a part of tonight's show. I'll be back tomorrow, 15 minutes of flame. I'm sure the world will have changed again in the next 10 hours. That's the way these things are. If you like the show, you want to support it, you can do that. I've got a link there. If you go 10, if you go 20, guess what? You'll be able to go to the webinar for free. That's going to be in 3 weeks. That webinar will be in 3 weeks. Okay, 3 weeks, the relocation webinar. Be part of it. It'll be cool. All right. King Corona special winding down. If you want that, you want to get there before Wednesday. That's an hour reading at a very, very discounted rate. Okay. Very discounted rate. And there will still be opportunities for you to work with me. It'll be a bit different. And that's that. All right. Thank you, one and all. Blessings to you. Use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and you are you. And don't you ever forget that. Let me just do my little SIG sign off. There we go. All right, there it is. All right, God bless. Love you all. I'll see you tomorrow. Signing off.